Now, you might be thinking, what the hell, Jack? Disney? What's scary about Disney? Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'd point you towards a few specific scenes in Snow White and Bambi, and we'll all collectively agree that there's nothing more terrifying than the Queen with her red apple, you know what I'm talking about, and Bambi's mum. Never forget. However, throughout the history of Disney Studios, there's a few unwanted stains on their cinematic catalogue that the executives would much rather forget. But guess what? We haven't forgotten. So, let's take a look, shall we? Hello horror fans and welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. As always, I'll be your horror host Jack Finch as we scour the long lost halls of Disney's dusty vaults and take a look at the top 5 scary Disney films. Roll the clip.
All alone, my pet?
Now, the internet is awash with myths and urban legends about the origins of Walt Disney and his magical world of animation. His body is frozen cryogenically and buried beneath Cinderella's castle. He was maligned with Nazis, yada yada yada. But forget about those, because what we're concerned with is Disney's attempts to meander their way into the realms of science fiction and horror with a demographic vastly made up of kids. Bad combination, but it makes for some great retrospection. Before we jump into this video, guys, you know the drill by now though. If you're a fan of this video, creepy Disney films, animated horror, or just top 5 scary videos in general, then please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button, as well as that subscribe bell so you can stay up to date with our latest and greatest uploads. Also, make sure to stick around all the way to the end of this video where I'll be reading out some of your more humorous comments from the past few days. On with the show. Kicking off at number 5, The Black Cauldron. Without a doubt, my favourite Disney film ever made, which kind of explains a lot. But when you really rummage through it, The Black Cauldron was an underrated early 80s masterpiece that was completely misinterpreted by the general public. Seriously, this film was torn to shreds and almost bankrupt Disney's animation studios, and because of that, Disney have gone out of their way to make sure that it's forgotten, branding it the black sheep of their animated canon. Do you want to know something even more terrifying? The Care Bears movie was more of a commercial success than this poor guy. Talk about salt in the wound. The Black Cauldron has no musical sequences, one of the few Disney films not to do so. Instead, it has one of the most haunting, creepy, and masterful musical scores ever made. It is dark and gloomy in all the right places, reflecting the animation's bleak and unfiltered style. This film isn't bright, it isn't colourful, and its source material is drawn from some seriously dark fiction. The Black Cauldron is loosely based on the Chronicles of Prydian by Lloyd Alexander, a series of novels that pay tribute to the ghouls and spectres of Welsh mythology. And for what was intended to be a kids movie, it really doesn't pull any punches. Disney was so ashamed of it that despite its 1985 cinematic release, it wasn't made available for commercial purpose until 1997, which is where it ended up in the laps of people like me, and we absolutely loved it for the dark, oftentimes disturbing tale that it was intended to be. Coming in at number 4, The Black Hole. Who knew that Disney made a terrifying science fiction horror mashup starring Anthony Perkins, aka the literal Norman Bates? Norman Bates is in a Disney film. Let that sink in, guys. Well, after the success of Star Wars in 1977, pretty much every studio on the face of the earth thought it would be a good idea to make a sci-fi film. And what was Disney's approach? A studio famed for Bambi, Dumbo and the like. They decided to make a dark, cosmic horror riff featuring a mad scientist trying to fly a spaceship into a black hole. Released in 1979, The Black Hole was the first ever Disney feature to receive a PG rating, and PG is pretty generous because not only does it feature a mad scientist, it also depicts an army of faceless robots that are in fact lobotomized humans that tried to mutiny but failed. Some straight up murder, mild cursing and very adult themes. A terrifying demon android named Maximilian, and an ending that is far, far from happy. What the hell, Disney? Next up at number 3, The Watcher in the Woods. Straight up, Disney's first and only intentional horror film. Well, kind of. And while it missed the mark on the whole, it was still jam-packed with some real horror pedigree. It's interesting then that Disney executive Ron Miller publicly pitched this film as Disney's version of The Exorcist. Hey, It was the late 70s, they were struggling for content. Attached to the film was John Hugh, the man responsible for the 1973 cult classic The Legend of Hell House, not Hill House. And for the most part, The Watcher in the Woods was a decent attempt at a supernatural horror flick. But Disney? What's going on, bud? Your audience are children. What were you thinking? The first version of this film featured a bizarre, perplexing ending for what is essentially a haunted house story, and critics tore it to shreds, making Disney think twice about dipping their toe into the chilly pond that is horror cinema. It was later re-released with a completely different ending that tied the whole thing together, and surprisingly, Disney were left with a genuinely creepy and eerie ghost story. But who's gonna watch it? No one. Sorry, Disney. The kids weren't ready for it. Swinging in at number 2, Return to Oz. And mark my words, this film is terrifying. Straight up. Even if it is a kid's film, Return to Oz creeped the hell out of me as a kid, and it still does now. And what a shock it was to go from Judy Garland's wonderful Wizard of Oz, we're off, to this horrifying, skin-flaying gorgon of a movie. Although Return to Oz was technically a lot more faithful to the L. Frank Baum book set in the magical land of Oz, it was a complete and utter 180 from the tone and visual style of the 1939 classic. And it scared kids so much that there were mass walkouts during its cinematic release. It was conjured up during the so-called Disney Dark Ages of the 80s, where, much like with The Watcher in the Woods, the studio was struggling to interpret exactly what their growing audience wanted. And what do we get? Well, a young, insomniac Dorothy Gale getting electroshock therapy in a mental asylum, headless princesses, the deeply disturbing Wheelers who, what the hell, I'll take flying monkeys any day over those guys, and of course, a living, breathing collection of women's heads in glass cabinets. It wasn't intended to be, but Return to Oz was possibly one of the scariest Disney films ever made. Although, there is one that takes that title over all others. Finally, coming in at a number 1 spot, Something Wicked, This Way Comes.
You won't be needing her anymore. Look, you have a fine, new mother now.
Those poor kids. Disney, what were you thinking? Put it this way, if Something Wicked This Way Comes was released as a Hammer horror film, it wouldn't have felt out of place. Starring a young Jonathan Pryce as the terrifying and mysterious Mr. Dark, the proprietor of a nightmarish and arcane carnival that rolls into the sleepy town of Greentown, Illinois, with the intention of taking over and forcing the townspeople to do his demonic bidding. It's not a happy film at any point. It's a straight up dark and twisted tale of a villain and his victims. Based on the novel of the same name written by Ray Bradbury, Something Wicked was meticulously loyal to its source material, with director Jack Clayton working closely with Bradbury to deliver on its horror-filled plot. Clayton was also responsible for adapting Henry James's horror novella The Turn of the Screw into the 1961 horror classic The Innocents. And that's exactly why Disney picked him up, because he made horror films really, really well. And that's what this is. It's a horror film and it's genuinely creepy for the most part. And it was made by Disney Studios. Who knew? Well, there we have it, folks. Let us know if you think we missed any scary films in the comment section down below. Before we depart, let's read out some of your best comments from the past few days. Derek Edwards says, always awesome content and always an awesome t-shirt. Keep up the great creepy work. Love it. Well, Derek, that's some incredibly high praise. Cheers for being a horror fan, my good buddy. I see a lot of comments asking where I get my t-shirts, and to be honest, they just kind of come to me. If I see it, I'll buy it. I'm terrible at shopping, so I have to be impulsive, but I'm glad you all appreciate them. They appreciate you too. The Abyss 92882 says, good video, but you need to try harder to scare me. Thanks for sticking around all the way to the end, guys. It's always a pleasure, never a chore to see you. As always, I've been your host, Jack Finch. You've been watching Top 5 Scary Videos, and until next time, you take it easy.